Welcome to another What's Up Wednesday. Yes, episode 13 of the weekly Vanlife RV show. My name is Scott. Welcome to Go Small, Live Large. Thanks for tuning in today for the live broadcast, and especially thanks for watching the replay. You get just as much info out of this as those joining live, and we have a queue already. Let me know where you're watching from. We've got Indiana, we've got Michigan, if up New York. Gosh, if you're from overseas, let us know that. We got a lot of viewers from all over the globe watching this program. So let us know where you're watching in from. If you're not familiar with What's Up Wednesday, let me give you a quick rundown. We have a massive show tonight for you. We're coming at you live from Savannah, Georgia. I just rolled in this afternoon. I've never been to Savannah before Vanlife or even after Vanlife. So I'm here, Kyle's here. We're going to do a bunch of videos and we're going to share some stuff about Savannah, but I need your tips. Some of you sent me some already, and so put them in the chat here and let's find out where we can help you learn Savannah better. It's just a gorgeous history seeped place. We have a special guest. I had to twist some arms to get Jack Johnson, co-founder of Volta and chief technology officer, on the show tonight. And we're going to be talking about RV Lithium 101, doing some deep dives on some subjects, answering your questions in real time. And we have got a big show just around that topic. Speaking of big topics, on Friday, we're having a YouTube live exclusive session with Terry Minix, VP at Embassy RV. If you're shopping for an RV that has some really different approaches to RV systems like waste and water, no wood in an Embassy RV, pick your floor plan, pick your chassis. 3 different chassis he builds upon. Join us live 11 a.m. Central on Friday, April 9th. That would be just great to have you join us there. And also coming up tonight, or coming up in subsequent weeks of What's Up Wednesday, some really big names in the YouTube space, right? We got Chad and Paul coming up next Wednesday. They traded in their Travato KL, that'd be a Volta lithium equipped Travato K, for a Storyteller that's even got a more juicy Volta system in it. So they're coming on the show live next Wednesday, April 14th, and you can see there we've got a bunch of really great people. Some tax help, Kevin 30 to Wake Up, and another water company wants to come talk to us about water. If you haven't seen my recent video on tires and videos, Lily got new shoes and brakes, and oh my God, what a difference that makes. Don't make the mistake I did of going too long. And big question of the week this week. And the question is, if I had unlimited resources, what van would Scott buy? What rig, really? So we'll try to address that. And of course, we got RV news. Jack's going to help us with that tonight because it's around a Wall Street Journal article about lithium batteries. And the viewer recommendation of the week is, how do I store my fishing pole on my van? You'll want to stay tuned for that. It's pretty crazy. And then, of course, we got viewer song of the week, pet pick of the week, and your questions throughout. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is bring Jack Johnson, co-founder of Volta and CTO, onto the show. Jack, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Scott. Glad to be here.
Well, it's a delight to be here. And Jack is really being special. He's on spring break with his kids, and you're located not in Holland, Michigan. Where are you?
I am in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Alabama, where the water's warm and the sunshine is bright. That is great. Well, thanks again for taking time out of spring break to join us tonight. It's pretty amazing. We got the folks rolling in here, some familiar names. Let us know where you're watching from, and give a big thumb up for Jack taking time out of spring break to join us here. That is so awesome. So Jack, maybe just tell us a little bit about so you came from the from Johnson Controls, do I have that right? And you came from the electric vehicle industry. So tell us a little bit about your background in Volta and how things got going.
Oh, wow. Well, I think the best way to start is my background in education. Farm kid, grew up in a small town in Kansas, had to learn at an early age how to fix things, how to solve problems. My dad was in motorsports. Both parents were entrepreneurs. Went to school to be an engineer, found engineering was what I was good at and enjoyed, and got recruited by Johnson Controls and moved to Michigan, thinking that I was going to design the next generation of products. Ended up at a company at the time was Prince, which was purchased by a company called Johnson Controls, which was at the time the largest lead acid battery manufacturer in the world. but they also did interior. So many of the parts inside your car was built by Johnson Controls, door panels, headliner seats. But my background was mainly in material science, and I was really good at fixing things, solving problems. So I had gotten a career of running around. I mean, first year there, I did a project, just a silly 21-year-old kid, and helped them solve a big problem and save 20 million a year in savings. And from there, they just give me bigger challenges, and I was flying all over the world, had teams globally. And then in 2000 and what, I think 8 or 9, right, everything was going crazy, and the markets crashed, and there was this big push to do electrification on the grid, right? It was part of all those grants you've heard of going around. Well, Johnson Controls was one of the only U.S. based companies in batteries to get one of those grants. And evidently they're like, well, no one's ever built a plant like this before. Who are we going to have do that? And somehow my name came to the list and said, hey, Jack had figured it out. So I got the rare privilege of saying, here, Jack, you get 11 months. Here's 250 million. And here's some stuff we've built for the military over this plant in Europe or in France. You need to scale it. You need to reduce its square footage. You need to make one every 6 seconds, and it needs to be perfect, no scrap. And this process was making 50% scrap. And we had it all do that in 11 months. Shovel ready it was. So I had a serious education of figuring things out in a hurry, and was fortunate to be a part of an amazing team. And we pulled off some incredible stuff in 09, 10, 11. And we really kind of forged the first footprints of large format, and we'll talk about that later, but large format lithium designed for engines, designed to replace engines. And, you know, in the engineering world, designing for that application or that spec really defines what that product is. And those are some of the big differences that we learned that you'll see defined in the product that we build at Volta.
That's really interesting. And so it's in your DNA personally, and you just kind of hit the nail on the head with some of those thoughts. So, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs are trying to solve a problem in the marketplace. This is your beautiful facility in Holland, Michigan. I've been there. It was a significant increase from the first facility I visited. So just maybe tell us a little bit about Volta, and what, as an entrepreneur, what problem are you trying to solve, and how's it doing in the marketplace?
Well, that goes back to Johnson Controls. When we completed all of the activities, we had this amazing facility. We spent a lot of money, and it was sitting there not doing anything. We didn't have a lot of customers. The plant was not utilized correctly, and nothing breaks your heart more as an engineer if you see all this hard work you built and it's not doing what it was supposed to do. And so I approached my leadership at the time and said, hey, let us engineers, we have some ideas of how we could repurpose this technology, trying to find a way to fill the plant. So the mission is how do you fill the capacity of the facility we built? Because nobody was buying EVs yet. And this is, again, 2000 and 2010, 2011 timeframe. And from that research, one of them was, hey, what if we design solutions that eliminated generators? And RV was one of those markets. We looked at 3 different markets, and we'd researched it. We actually took a Prevost bus from a friend of mine in Holland, Michigan that sold Prevos. And we said, hey, would you let us have one of your buses? We would share the technology with you. We just want access to $1 million bus and put all this tech on it. So we did all this tech, and then we drove around the country and we did studies, and we talked to consumers, said, hey, what would you think if no more generator, right? No noise, no smell, you know, completely gone. And we had great reaction. But the challenge was for Johnson Controls is the RV and the specialty markets that we work in. So we work in the RV, marine, and special heavy equipment, work trucks, lift trucks, mobile, medicine, things like that. Anything where you need a lot of power, but on a mobile platform.
So 3 distinct industries that you're solving this problem for.
But they really fit together.
But similar. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were saying, okay, well, how would these small companies ever get access to it if Johnson Controls can't, you know, work with them because they're too small? Meaning think of Winnebago or Thor or any of those. You combine all of those together, all three of those industries I mentioned, they're still smaller than Toyota as one OEM. And so the cost structures to develop this technology on scale, to do the air proofing, to do the performance testing, to build the factories and the plants, to do all of that, it was just beyond what these industries could do. And so our challenge was, okay, well, if Johnson Controls can't do that, can we do it on a small scale? Can we do it the Volta path? So after some discussions with Johnson Controls, they decided they didn't want to do it. And I'm like, gosh, that is a really good opportunity. And
Burning on you.
I said, I'm going to do it. So I left Johnson Controls with the idea that I'm going to make this happen. Was able to get with the investors that you mentioned that had the buses, put together a business plan, launched the company. And our focus has been providing that automotive level technology and all that know-how, but putting it in simple packages that these industries could have the same access to this tech, the EV level tech that's going in cars. And that's been our focus ever since.
That's so amazing. So we got some questions coming in. Let me just kind of remind folks, this helps me out. So this is the question format that Kevin 30 and a Wake Up has kind of made famous on YouTube Live. It's 3 asterisk followed by 3 question mark and then a space, and then kind of pose your question there. So we definitely want to take your questions live tonight. I mean, this is a special treat to have Volta in the house, Jack Johnson, co-founder and CTO. And I've got some more questions. So let's just talk about, so get those questions rolling in. There's a few coming in. Let's kind of talk about the Volta Advanced Energy System. Now, I could wax on for hours about how cool this is, but I know how to use my system. I know what it can do for me, but I really don't know what makes it tick. And we've had some questions about trends in the marketplace, and there's this, you folks have a very different approach to this than some folks. So maybe just kind of give us what are you saying in trends is replacing lithium or replacing generators with a lithium system, electrical engine, I think you like to call it. Is that certainly a trend or is this a fad?
Well, I really think it's a trend. You can see it going on right now. I mean, General Motors changing their emblem to resemble their future. All of Europe, every European automotive manufacturer have stopped the development of internal combustion. They're 100% committed all of the resources for EV and PHEV development. A lot of that same type of thought process is going here in the States. Now, will that completely happen? Probably not at the rate that they hope for, but the fact that there is that much momentum in an industry with that much capital moving, it's going to happen. And as you get EV platforms coming out in the next few years, people want electrified RVs too. You're going to find none of them have enough capacity to do the air conditioning. In fact, running air conditioning and these other loads is more than maintaining the car at 55 miles an hour. So where's that energy come from? Are you going to have a electric bus and then put on a diesel burning generator? It's not going to really work. And here what we're doing is we're giving you the best of both worlds. I mean, the system, for example, the system you have in your vehicle is going to be a pinnacle hybridized solution where you've got all of the great capability of a last 100 years of development in drivetrain technology, and then you're putting in the latest in advanced energy storage and making the two work together, giving you unprecedented performance off grid. And I think the stories, we were talking earlier before the show, like almost 70,000 miles in full-time living for 2 years. Where could you have done that before? You really couldn't have done that.
Every time sorry to interrupt, but even tonight, so ladies and gentlemen, I was going to do this from the inside of the hotel. We're actually boondocking in a Marriott. We're not staying inside the hotel. We're actually in the parking lot. But I'm actually running this show off my Volta system with AC in here. They cool it from 90 to 77 in, what, Jack, about an hour? It's just amazing that I can do this. The show's powered literally by Volta tonight. It's just, I pinch myself every time. And so many of you have said, I wish I knew more about why I needed Volta because I didn't buy it, and now I get it. I use the generator way more than I ever thought. And this is just a great example tonight in the pinch. Jack, we got some really good questions coming in. Let me put these up on the screen here. So Liz V wants to know, if we want to answer your questions, but if it gets really technical, we might have to take them offline. So, but Jack, help me out here. So hi, Scott and Jack. If you already have a 12-volt battery system. Can I get the 12-volt alternator installed and work with the system I have?
Yeah, so I think the 12 volt and what we operate is a different voltage. So in electricity, to make power, it's two things. It's volts and it's current, and that makes your power. Well, if your voltage is a 12-volt system, that's kind of like saying the pressure, right? If your pressure in your house, let's say you got 50 pounds of pressure on your house water, well, that's what you've got. And if you don't have the same pressure, you can't fill the vessel, right? So if you have a storage container that has 50 pounds of pressure in it, but then you say, hey, no, I want to go to 12 pounds, but you need 50 pounds to fill it, you're not going to be able to fill that vessel. And the same thing goes with electricity. We operate at 51 volts nominal voltage. We're lead acid generally, or some of the other lithium systems operate like 12.7 volts nominal. They don't have enough push to use what we do. And that's what's neat about what we do is by pushing up the voltage to 51 volts nominal, 58 to the top, we're actually jumping the horsepower. So just as you notice, if I can turn the pressure up, I get a better, for a shower or water or your garden hose, you need more pressure, you can do more work. The same thing goes with electricity. You turn the pressure up, which is the voltage, you can do more work. You can have more power, more horsepower. At the same time, we have more storage. And that gets a lot of people confused at the differences of how electricity works. It's been kind of a magical thing. We haven't never really thought about it. Same with your electrical bill. But in electricity, we talk in funny units that can get people thrown off. But currently, you can't mix voltages. If you do, you have to have some sort of interchanger that pushes the voltage down or pumps it up. The same you would do with water pressure in the pipe. If you need to reduce the pressure, you got really, really high pressure, then you can't just connect it to a low pressure hose. You've got to reduce the pressure or you could break something. Or same way, if you got really low and you're going to need something that runs high pressure, like a power washer, you've got to push the pressure up. Camera work.
So by installing a big voltage alternator in there would probably not
It's
be a
not
good
going
thing.
to work.
So that would be a no.
You have to change
Not going to
everything.
work. So this is a great question, and thank you, Liz, for asking. That's a good question. This kind of goes almost to the So Terry Hellstrom, he's a great fan of the channel. We're a great fan of him. He's great. In fact, stay for pet pick of the week. You might be surprised, Terry. Wants to know, I'm curious if Jack thinks that in 10 years there will be no more generators in the new RVs, only lithium power systems. Cast your vision out 5-10 years. What do you think?
10 years, I still think there'll be a lot of generators. You can say you can push, agendas in politics. You can push certain things, but in the end, the consumer really controls what happens by their buying, their ability to buy. I think you're going to see still a lot of people that need and like the comfort of a generator, or their road tripping doesn't really need it, meaning they really only drive from plug to plug. We see that a lot. If your habit is, hey, I'm only going to use this thing 10, 15 times a year, and I am only worried about what happens when I get to where I can plug in and I want my utilities, generators will probably be the thing to use for quite a while, especially in your bigger vehicles. But I think you'll see a higher and higher penetration of what we're doing today, meaning hybridizing or eliminating the need of a generator for those that really want to live off grid, or they don't want to be constrained by worrying about where they're going to go to campground. I'm a big believer that the only reason people go to the campgrounds is because they want their creature features. They need it, right? They want air conditioning, they want loads, and traditionally they don't have a choice other than power generators. And I think we'll see more consumers going, hey, I like that. If I can use my vehicle more often, I'm not annoying neighbors. It's green. It doesn't smell. It doesn't have maintenance issues. And I can just go when I want to. Even if that doubles your use time on the vehicle, that would theoretically cut your cost per use in half, right?
Yep.
And so for me, I think you'll see that consumer-driven demand for those that really want to go out off-grid and use their RVs more than they've traditionally been able to.
That's really great. I think you're right. It's pretty fascinating. I mean, this looks really cool to me. But what's even cooler is I can run my AC in a hotel parking lot, not plugged into anything, and not worry about running AC all night long. It just works. Drive around for a little bit tomorrow, we're charged back up, and it's rinse and repeat. If you haven't seen the VOLTA'S system on their website, there's some really cool video that shows this. And Jack, this is the kind of question I had. I get on a regular basis: consumer grade versus automotive grade. Keep your questions coming in. We've got some really good ones coming in. Jack, kind of in a we don't want to keep Jack from his spring break, so we're going to cut this off here in a little bit. But we're going to get some great questions in. But if you can answer quickly, kind of Volta difference, consumer grade versus automotive grade, in English for us, please. Our technical.
What you really mean is you don't want to put the viewers to sleep, right?
What are we looking at here?
Yeah, well, what you're looking at, consumer versus automotive, is when you know you've got only a few minutes to try to explain something that's pretty complex to somebody, you've got to break it down and make it simple. When you think about your cell phone or consumer appliances, toys, what are those focused on, right? They're focused on a certain certain use case. In a cell phone, your cell phone is designed to last 3 years. Right? They want you to buy a new cell phone at 3 years. They're not going to design a battery that does 2,000 cycles, 10 years of use. They're going to design the battery, and you can physically design, knowing what the failure points are for a product for cost and cycles. So most cell phone batteries are good to 800, 900 cycles. Some are better than others, but they purposely say, hey, don't build a better battery than I need, because that's adding cost and hurts the bottom line. Same thing goes with consumer toys, consumer products, right? It's about really low cost, and it does not need to meet the super long requirement. There's a lot of other things in there. I mean, I can go all day long on safety, performance, impact, vibration, temperature, high and low. You're trying to airproof everything. And in automotive, you think about what's the application, what's the design intent of that vehicle? Well, if you're going to get anybody to buy this product, it better do as good as a traditional internal combustion engine, or you should not show up to the game. And so everything had to change. And that's where I got involved back in mid 2000s, where, Tesla had to start off with all existing capital, and they started building higher performance electrodes, but putting them in little round cells, because that capital already existed, right? They couldn't afford to build entire factories. They didn't have anything to lose. They were trying to do a startup. GM, Ford, Chrysler, Toyota, Honda, Mercedes, BMW, they were already big giants. They couldn't afford the risk. And statistically, they knew that these small formats they couldn't work with. So that forced the industry to develop new chemistries, new formats, new manufacturing processes, and really focus on how do you get the quality way up so that you've got consistent, high quality product that you can put together in a large package, eliminate an engine, and then meet the life characteristics of an engine in terms of the asset expectations, which is, in the automotive world, it's 10 years. An internal combustion engine is designed for a 10-year life, and you've got to show that you can meet 10 plus years in your testing and performance criteria. And that's really where it started. And I can go into all the other details there, but you can see the one on the right's got a different type of format. It's a very specialized type of factory. It's got a very specialized supply chain. And all of those components, you've heard of blockchain or things like that, you can track where everything comes from, right? Everything's, ISO 9000 type certified type companies who are tracking all this, got really strong quality systems so that you can, make sure you got a good product going out the door. Consumer products, unless you're really going after a very good reputable company and them, and they've got great US representation, there's a lot of off-branded stuff, and the supply chain is kind of the Wild West. And those are the big difference that I can just quickly point out between what's automotive and what's a traditional consumer over-the-counter solution.
Yeah, it's a complex conversation, and not easily explained in a few minutes. But I know we got some great questions here. So let's see if we get through some of these fairly quick. So Mary's got a great comment. Only RVs worth having are the ones with lithium. I'd say Volta, but yes, I agree with you, Mary. How about this question here? Would Volta consider expanding their partnership beyond Winnebago to say authorized repair shops and other credible manufacturers? You guys already work with quite a few others, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of others. We have one of our longest running. Actually, our first customer was Liberty Motor Coach out of North Chicago. They are the premium Prevost builder. They build a super high-end luxury motor coach, and we've been on that vehicle since 2016. Storyteller Overland, they're out of Alabama. They build a wonderful adventure van, and great people. I've seen amazing growth from them. Of course, Winnebago, and then you can find us on a lot of very specialized vehicles like Advanced RV, other smaller niche builders. And traditionally, we start on the higher end of a market, and then we bring our technology in as we can get scale. And really, it's coming down to people showing they're willing to purchase it. I mean, the technology, unfortunately, is expensive. It is built in pretty low volume, but there hasn't been a year yet, we haven't been able to bring the price down as we get more and more volume. And if we get more and more consumers asking for our products, we build more and more volume, and that drives it into new spaces and brings the cost down more. So that's what we're on that mission for doing right now.
That's awesome. And here, these are the components that make up a system, and that's really what it is. It's an ecosystem, start to finish, engineered, built by Volta, installed by Winnebago, in this case for a travato, which kind of leads us to a question here, Jack, that Keith has. Can AGM batteries be changed out with lithium batteries fairly easily with just changing out the inverter, or what else is involved? If I look at this kind of matrix here, I'm guessing probably not very easily, right?
Well, in any lithium system, so let's just say he's interested in converting from 12-volt AGM batteries to a 12-volt lithium battery. I'd highly recommend that you do not just put them in. Why? Lithium, even if it's a lithium phosphate battery, and they're saying, if someone tells you that they're a perfect match or drop in, they're just doing sales. The reality is the voltages are a little bit off, and their rate of voltage current acceptance is a lot different. Lithium phosphate batteries, LFP 12-volt batteries, can absorb energy at an amazing rate, just like the bigger batteries we use. They'll absorb energy very quickly, and they usually have what's called a BMS. That BMS is battery management system, and it's there to monitor the performance and protect the battery from getting into any bad run scenarios. And if you just put it in without controls, there's a good chance that you're going to overrun your alternator, heat it up and ruin your alternator. There's also a good chance that if you didn't set it up correctly, you could put the battery in a high voltage state. And that would, if it does have an internal contactor built in, a good one should. If you're putting a system together and don't know what a contactor is, don't be doing it. And what a contactor does is the battery has the ability, or should have the ability, to say, hey, I'm in a dangerous state, I'm stopping what you're doing, and they'll pull that main contactor. Well, if you're pulling a lot of current and you just pop a contactor open, you risk of welding that contactor, you risk doing what's called a load dump. You could damage all the electronics in your vehicle. You basically put really high voltage spikes, kind of like Indiana Jones' whip, right? You got that whip and whack, and you get that big zap. We'll think of that as electricity. You cut the cord quickly, that electricity does what's called a flyback, and it snaps real hard, and it can damage electrical components that aren't well protected. So there's lots of things and reasons why, when you thinking about going to lithium, it's not a drop-in thing. I recommend either do a lot of reading or get an expert to help you plan out a solution that meets your needs.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's a system, right? And this is Brad's question, kind of along the same lines. Can you add Volta to a non-lithium RV? Kind of, but not really economically, right, Jack? I mean, it's you kind of buy it installed for you, right?
Yeah.
Which kind of leads us to this. Yeah, go ahead.
No. There are, if you've got a high-end vehicle and you really want to do it, we have some specialty companies that will convert your vehicle. And that's really for people that either are building a really high performance or a specialty vehicle. It has a lot of value. Oftentimes having a unit that's already with the system built in is the most economical approach.
Yeah. And this is another great question. I wish I could do this. I know the answer already because I've asked. But Deb wants to know, I have a Travato 2019 KL that has 3 batteries. Can you add a 4th battery? Is it best to replace all the batteries at once? So let me show the graphic on the screen here. So I call them cores. And if you see the 3 silver boxes with a 4th being dropped in, that's what Deb is referencing here. So can I take my Volta, because I have a non-national park edition, Jack, and that has 3 of the 4 cores loaded. Can I add a 4th core? Is that what's your thought on that?
Yeah, in theory it's possible, but you'd have to basically take the whole pack apart and rebuild it, and it's not really economical to do that.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend, if you're wanting to jump up in size, either go with a different vehicle, or you more than likely would have to change out the whole pack. So if you got somebody who wants to buy your pack and you want to upgrade to another pack, that's really the best way to do it.
Get a national park edition.
Yeah, upgrade vehicles is by far the most economical way to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Great question. Keep those questions coming in. Jack, we're at the bottom of the hour. Let us go another few minutes with you, or do you need to jump out and cook some steaks?
No, you're fine. You're fine. Is our signal still good? I noticed I froze on the screen.
Yeah, I'm okay. There was a little hiccup about 10 minutes ago. We're doing good. Yeah, keep those coming in. So this is New Jersey. Let me know where you're watching from. Give a thumb up if you learned anything tonight. Just give a thumb up for Jack being here. He's not cooking his family dinner yet because he's here chatting with us, which is pretty awesome. So hi from New Jersey. This is kind of an interesting question. So Aperty says, right now, lithium battery life is limited when it comes to heavy use. Air conditioner overnight is an example. How soon will issues like that go away? And before I answer, Jack, I can say that everybody kind of talks about the AC thing, but it's all the other little things that go on without the AC that makes this possible. If it's cool enough, I can run my rig without being plugged in short power if I'm driving around a little bit for days. The longest time has been 21 days now. So AC is like, I'm blasting it right now. It's almost getting cold in here. We're down to 75. I'm going to go turn it down. But AC is important, but it's not the use case for a lithium equipped coach, in my opinion. It's everything else you can do that your 110 outlets need to do that makes it a much better RVing experience. So how would you answer that in addition if Jack?
Well, if I understood the question right, the question is, are they solving the problem with AC? But really the question to me sound like, how does my runtime work? What does that mean for running items? And the technology exists today to run as much as you'd want. It really comes down to cost and what you want to do with the vehicle, or how long you want to run something. The thing I see most in the industry is a lot of people find it kind of magical, right? They don't know or completely understand what it takes to drive a device. And what I like to help people understand is, you got to think of batteries as a fuel tank. If you're going to drive 100 miles and you get 20 miles a gallon, you can identify how many gallons of fuel you need. Batteries work the same way. It's just, unfortunately, we haven't done a good job teaching what it means to calculate how long you can run. So, for example, if you've got a air conditioner and it burns 1,500 watts per hour, and you want to run 10 hours, you're going to need 15,000 watt hours of storage. And that's just how it is. And if you want to run longer than that, let's say double that, you're going to need 30,000 watt hours of storage. And that's no different than saying, hey, let's just say I've got a 100-gallon fuel tank and I'm going to burn half a gallon an hour. I can calculate how long I can run. So it's really important to say, hey, what devices do I want to run and how long do I want to run them? And that will determine how big of an energy system you need. And then at the same time, you also will know how big of power output you need. You there?
Makes sense. Yep. Doing good. It stutters out a little bit. Uh-oh. Do we lose Jack? Maybe he connect back in. Looks like we had it. Gulfport, Alabama, in a high rise. So it's a good question. Hopefully that helped a little bit. Let's, Roads of Life asks a good question here. If we get Jack back, we'll see if we can put this up. This would be, yes, this would be a good one for Jack. We got a couple more really good ones coming in. Jack is back with us.
All right.
Jack. It's all right.
Live is fun.
Live TV is great. So Roads of Life, he's a frequent commenter on the channel and is just a great guy. Now we're gonna ask you to ask this question.
This is my world.
I know you and Robert can go down the hole on this one, but maybe just kind of battery technology, chemistry, Volta planning to change anything. What do you see there?
Every day chemistry is changing. And as a performance automotive geek, you're right, you think about years of engineering through engine design, and everybody knows basic engines, 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, V8s, turbochargers. They've heard it forever. They've grown up. Even if they don't know anything about cars, the public knows that the difference of more horsepower, torque means certain things to them. They might not be experts, but they also understand that materials make a difference, engineering and science makes a difference, and there's always been evolution of technology. The same thing goes in batteries or advanced energy devices. There's constant work being done on improving manufacturing, improving material development. These materials have to be refined. They're ground to a certain size. So his question is about nanotech. Well, more surface area means more activity. So if you can make materials at a reasonable cost with more and more surface area, you can actually have more and more energy density, and you can actually have more reaction of the material, meaning you make more power. Lithium sulfur. What is lithium sulfur? Where most of those is anode development. Sulfur has the ability to store a little more energy. The problem with lithium sulfur is it likes to expand. And so what happens if you hear about lithium sulfur research, generally when you charge them, you think about batteries kind of like a lung, right? Breathe in the air, reduce the air. So that's the same as charging. Well, your cell goes under stress every time that you charge them. So how you package them, how you hold them, what the material is made of, how much stress it can handle being flexure fatigue, going back and forth. You ever played with a bottle cap and you go back and forth until the aluminum breaks and you break the bottle cap off? Those types of processes is called material fatigue. Those things happen in a small scale every time you charge and recharge. So you have to have everything aligned perfectly to get a combination of life, cycle performance, energy density, so on and so forth. So these new materials that are coming out, they're great, and they might do certain things. Like lithium sulfur says, hey, I can maybe double my energy density, but my cycles go down. So maybe it's only good to 500 cycles. Well, there'll be certain applications where 500 cycles of double the energy for a lightweight unit might make sense. But they're not necessarily making sense for a product you want to be 10 or 15 years with 2,000 cycles, right? It's not going to be a good payback or investment. Carbon activation, how do you interact carbons? You've probably heard of all these different forms of graphite. Well, graphite's carbon, and it's all about how do you get structures of more and more surface area. And you've got to figure out how to manufacture those materials consistently on scale. So that's what's really exciting is you see all this great, new tech coming out, but generally you need to look for how many cycles have they developed. I mean, recently there's a company came out and they actually got themselves in a little bit of trouble where they announced they've got this new solid state electrolyte, and yet really looks good, and they've got some great testing. But then you ask, oh, how many have you produced and what's your actual life cycle testing? And if you don't understand that, you can quickly misinterpret their meaning. And that's one of the things that happened was, they're a long ways. They're going to be 5-10 years before you've got scaled capital that can produce it consistently, that you can prove that it's going to work long term and meet all of the requirements to replace that in your engine. It's just not something that just drops in tomorrow. And that's why
there's a lot of
it takes time. I like to tell people I literally got so in Johnson Controls in 5 years we spent that company to bring product to market starting in 08. In 5 years, it's a little over 1.2 billion was the last number I saw. And that was to build a factory, do all the lessons learned, develop technology. And that was back in 2010, 2011, 2012. You think about how long it takes to get proof, evidence, and then keep the risk down, verify performance, and get to market. When you hear the new stuff on the market, it's going to be 5-10 years down the road.
Yeah. Which kind of leads us to our RV News headline of the week. We're going to show this in just a second, but a number of you have a similar question to a great question, Roads of Life. And yes, thank you for that validation there. He says that it's VOLTA is powerful. So Live Work Live has an interesting question. There's several of you that have kind of along the same line. So Jack, maybe in just a few sentences, is there a way to add a VOLTA system to my build, standalone, maybe an SSG? I don't know. What do you think?
There are ways. I recommend you look for our upfitters. If you go under our website, you go into Get VOLTA, click the red Get VOLTA button, and you'll find a list of certified upfitters and custom builders that have access to our product, have been trained so far. And we're slowly adding dealers as it makes sense for us. But there is a significant learning and investment we have to do per every dealer we bring on that does it. That's why we're not everywhere yet. It takes time to train everybody, teach everybody, and make sure that we never get in the news the bad way. I mean, that's the thing that in today's world, if you make a mistake, just like we're live, I make a mistake, it goes everywhere very quickly. And we got to maintain that level of quality and reputation for a small company like us to keep growing.
Yeah. And it's, I'm glad you do that. It's controlled, but it helps control the customer experience, which has been great for me. Speaking of great, here's the Ginger Walkabout. She's a GL owner. I think she visited your factory and she wants to say hi.
Yeah,
so appreciate that.
Too. we had the whole team. It was fun.
She's awesome. I love her. So Patrick has kind of the similar question we just had. So let's jump to the RV News headline. And this, maybe you can just comment on this real quick. So this actually kind of came courtesy of the Wall Street Journal. I learned about through VOLTA, had some conversations with them. Elon Musk likes this EV battery with different technology than chemistry, I should say, right? It costs less, but the USA isn't sold. Maybe just give a quick synopsis of what that is. You can see the link there. This is going to be on my website when the show ends, so you can go read the entire story. But what's kind of the headline alluding to here, Jack?
Well, the headline's really alluding to the competitive nature of the market. Everybody looks for those things that you can say, hey, why are they different? And right now in the RV space, we're different than everyone else because we use what's called nickel manganese cobalt against graphite. And it's a specific version. It's automotive development. And the industry right now, since a lot of people don't understand everything, chemistry is the quick discussion for differentiation, but you really need to open it up and get into the details to understand the discussion. And what Elon's referring to is Elon is trying to grow in Asia. And currently, the product he has here in the States is Panasonic technology. Panasonic invested quite heavily into them over the years, and they use NMC, nickel manganese cobalt formulation. Again, their own version of the chemistry, different than what we do, but similar in terms of the basic design of chemistry. Then they also do NCA, nickel cobalt aluminum. It's a hotter chemistry, a higher performance chemistry. But when they go to Europe or Asia, they need to be able to have content to access those market. The Chinese government says you need to have Chinese partners and you got to have Chinese infrastructure. And that's really, really expensive to start developing product. Now, Panasonic owns a lot of the IP, and Panasonic doesn't necessarily want to bring product or their technology into China. We all know reasons why that's difficult to bring product into China, because they don't always follow our thought processes on intellectual property, and they just don't see the world that we do, how we do. Well, how does he get capital? Where he was focusing on the big guys in China, CATL and a few others, they have a lot of capacity for technology lithium iron phosphate. And there's lots of ways you can build lithium iron phosphate. Your quality materials, all the ways you put it, the manufacturing quality of your plants, and you can build good lithium iron phosphate, but it has certain applications. And what's happening is they've been producing product with lithium iron phosphate over there, but the customers aren't happy because they're not getting the range. And there's lots of reasons why the range is, it's almost 2 times less energy dense than the NMC. And for a consumer, constantly having to go charge your vehicle and not have enough range, and you already have range anxiety to begin with, is just what the article's showing. Is there's a lot of folks have gone out, bought the new car with the lower cost LFP, and they're not happy because they're not getting the range. And that's the thing that we talk about often with folks here is, we're doing this because it's product coming from automotive. It's going to have a very high quality. It's going to have good safety and good performance characteristics, because you've got that level of industry investment. And at the same time, you're getting more and more energy in a smaller package. For us, we're doing it at 48 volts in that package. The power we have in that package is like nobody else out there. And that means you have a lot of horsepower with a good amount of runtime. And to do that with anything else, you just can't do it right now. And that's what Elon and Tesla is struggling with, is the limiting factor of the physics of the technology between what he's got access to here in the US and Europe versus what he has access to in Asia. And that's just highlighting the differences in a different, versus having, company A versus company B arguing whose chemistries are better, right? And everybody's going to have opinions who's better. It's Chevy and Ford have been at it, and Dodge, or if you're a Mopar fan, right? You've all been fighting. Who makes mine's a Chevy, mine's a Ford. I mean, you have all these discussions. Mine's safer, mine runs longer, right? And everybody has those teams they like to join up to. That's fine. And I don't have any issues. I think that's important to have competition. It's just really important to get to understand what's really going on in the background. You're not going to get it in simple 2-sentence sales pitches. It really takes a little more time and a little more investment.
Yeah, none of this stuff is simple. I mean, I am such a child in the woods here, but the complexity of just a 21-foot ProMaster van being able to be converted into a house that I've lived in for 26 months, nonstop, running my Volta system, flushing the toilet, filling the freshwater tank, taking a cold beer out of the fridge for years, over 2 years, 2.5. It's just, it boggles my mind. And so you start talking about the nitty gritty of this kind of stuff, and it's just like, it makes me blow up. We've got some really great questions. We're running out of time. Let me, there's a couple, again, along some threads here. So comparison Lithionics versus Volta. This one is kind of an interesting one here about from Linda. And Jack, if we don't want to go here, or we can take offline, something like that. But Linda wants to know, a frequent commenter, by the way, thank you, Linda, wants to know why Volta components are installed inside the Storyteller Overlander. That's what STO stands for. So the Volta energy pack is actually inside the back, near the cargo doors, whereas a Travato, it's slung under the chassis, and just kind of vulnerable. If you don't lift your van in particular, you have to be careful of backing into curbs. But what's the difference between inside versus outside? There seems to be some debates on that. Is that an easy question to answer?
Yeah, I think it's relatively straightforward. I mean, it really comes down to our customers. We want to work with our customers, and when you think about Travato, it's designed for a cruising van. It is a kind of like your GT
touring coach,
tour, right? It's a coach, and it's really not designed for that explorer van, right? The off-grid living. So running around in the streets, doing everything it does, parking in general, RV parking spaces, traveling, that where it fits, it's really good. Now, those that want to go a little more aggressive, and I've seen the pictures going, oh, I hit this big rock. The van, you're exceeding the van's design intent that the engineers had pictured for what that product was for. Storyteller over and goes, hey, I'm building an adventure van, 4-wheel drive, right? It's it's going to be going all over the place. So obviously ground clearance was a big component. When you look at the Travato, the ground clearance between the generator and our battery box, there's no difference. They're the same. They fit in the same space. They fit in the, so if you have Travato with a gen, you have the same limitations, because it's not that it's a bad design at all. It is just a function of what that vehicle's purpose intent was when design intent happened. And that's why Storyteller did a really cool job of how they balance the tanks, right? So they have fresh water on one side and the battery pack on the other, and they're on the verticals, and that gives really good weight transfer. And of course, they wanted to get as much maximum ground clearance as possible, because that vehicle is designed for that ultimate explorer getting off grid. That was the main reason that they're different.
Super helpful, super helpful. And I always maintain, you know, you need to answer the question, why do you want an RV first, which kind of leads to, in the end, you know, how will RV systems enable that why, which then answers what kind of RV should you buy. And I think a lot of people just kind of go to the what first without really thinking through the why. So we've had one of our audience angels, Tab, out of Chattanooga, started with a 59G non-lithium and found out he was in the woods a lot. So he bought a Rebel and put in a lithium system. So it's kind of a long story, but you got to think through your why first. That's kind of what I want to think about. So Jack, let's do this. If folks want to learn more, there's a ton of content on Volta's website, which is voltapowersystems.com. A lot of tutorials. A number of you asked a number of questions here. One of you had asked about kind of cell balancing. That video is 2 minutes long on Volta's website. My story is kind of on there. Kevin 30 and a Wake Up had a AC test. So check out their website and check out their, it's not listed here, it's kind of interesting, is the their YouTube channel. There's a lot of YouTube videos. They probably all link out to there, but go hit them up and subscribe, because they're putting out content. Jack's becoming famous in his own right on YouTube. It's pretty cool. And of course, Instagram and stuff. And that's, so let me just kind of give a big shout out and a thanks. We got a couple more minutes left, Jack, and we'll see if we get some more questions in. But let me shift gears just a little bit, folks. And folks are coming in. Yeah, give a thumb up, or let me shift gears here. Has this been fun, Jack?
Oh yeah,
you should see the question. Well, you can see the questions. I mean, Jack can spend 3 hours of this stuff, and that's great. I'm sorry here. So let's shift gears. Let's get some question of the week. So this is kind of interesting, and Jack, love your feedback on this as well. So question of the week here is, Scott had a very long note that I whittled down to this. Wondering if you're in a world of almost unlimited resources, which vehicle would you go for? I would be buying the same rig I have. I love the G floor plan. I wish I had the higher density 4 cores loaded into the system versus 3. But other than that, I would buy the exact same rig. I would lift it. I would wrap it. I just love my rig. So if I won the lottery today, all I would do is quit my job. I don't know. I wouldn't buy any. There's some changes for Travato, but this van is just so enabling for why I wanted to RV, and that's the key. I think there's things that will get better over time. You know, a more connected vehicle. Volta has an app now. You're going to see some videos coming up about that, and I think it's. I mean, you could throw a lot of money at it, like the advanced RV guys. We met Libertas and the owner of that van, and that's just the way they roll. So you can throw a lot of money at it in the Prevo. You still got to sort of go. Unless you got your Volta equipped Liberty, it's still got to run to the 50 amp service. So it really kind of boils down to, how do you want to RV? Why do you want to RV? In my opinion, so that's a good question. Question of the week. Any comments on that, Jack?
Oh, you're right on. It's if you want to park in a general parking space and you want to be incognito, stealth, and maximize the use of your vehicle, there's only a certain size that you're going to fit in a space, right? So. Who's maximizing that theoretical square the best, and from there it's going to be personal preference.
Yeah, it's so true. We should do a workshop. Maybe a fun channel camp out. We call them Van Berees, and do like paper dolls. Build your own RV. We'll get a bunch of cardboard boxes, cut it apart with some measuring tapes. That would be a fun exercise. So this is really cool. Now, are you a fisherman, Jack?
I like to fish when I have time.
So. Well, I know, right? You're a busy guy. And thanks for taking spring break with us tonight. I really appreciate it. So this comes from Linda and Ted. I met this couple. They were kind of new to, I think, to their travato experience. And the viewer recommendation of the week is this is where you can store your fishing poles. They put it on the back of their van. And apparently there's these $12, here, let me zoom this out for you. These $12 contraptions that you can screw on. They chose to zip tie it to the ladder on their travato. And I got to see this in real time from Linda and Ted when we had met them at the Roundup at Keel Farms near outside Tampa. And I'm going to put these on my website later tonight, so you can buy these $12, and you can see how they've really stored their fishing poles. And I'm sure once they get to their destination, they, maybe pull them inside. But for just trekking across, the state or whatever, that's a genius idea to store your fishing pole from your ladder, which is kind of useless space anyway in most cases. What do you think of that for a viewer recommendation?
Yeah, it's great.
Kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it's better than being stuck down the center with a hook on
I know,
it
right?
somewhere.
Stepping on a hook. Yeah, just holy cow. Just so thank you, Linda and Ted, a charming couple. Oh my God, they're truly living their dream. They were just the coolest people. We're gonna do some roundups, I promise. So hang in there with me. And look at this one. Let's see. This is that'll be on my website in a little bit. Viewer song of the week. Do you guys know about Darius Rucker? Love this guy. He is. If you ever seen Leslie's recommendation song of the week here is Southern State of Mind. Hadn't heard that one by Darius. It's a real toe tapper, and the song is talking about going to New York and ordering sweet tea and watching the staff go crazy. Like, what? And it's good. It's a great song. His stuff is really good. And if you haven't listened to Wagon Wheel, his version is spectacular. And that's one of the songs I'm trying to learn how to play on the guitar. Southern State of Mind. It's really great. And Terry, if you're hanging in there with us, this is a good one here. This is our pet photo of the week. This is Courage. Now, if we can get you, Jack, and Terry talking sometime with Roads of Life guy. So Terry's he's kind of a satellite engineer it's a long story. He has actually taken out, that's his dog. That's the point of the story here. What a cute dog. His wife, Karen's awesome. And he actually took out the bench seat front and back cushions, and he has this satellite monitoring thing it looks like Star Trek. You walk in and it's like, what are you tracking, man?
Awesome.
He's a great guy. I love Terry. And look at that dog. He says that dog loves to go travel in his Travato GL, which is just great. He loves his Volta system in his
I like
GL.
to see some pictures. I got to see that.
Yeah, I might have to connect you guys up because you guys can talk all night on this stuff, I'm pretty sure. Let me look at the questions one more time here. This will be respectful of your time, Jack, and thanks again for joining us tonight. So any questions? There's some comparison stuff in here. We don't have time for that. Give a thumb up if you're enjoying this at all. Mildly entertaining, hopefully super educational. Let's see, searching. A lot of questions we're not going to get tonight. Sorry, folks. This is where I need to. Yeah, Darius is great. Thank you. So I think that's about what she rolls. All right. So with that, Jack, we're saying again a big thanks for you. And to the family for delaying the steak dinner tonight on spring break. It's really cool of you. I'm going to be seeing you guys, I think in May, right?
Yep.
Anything else we should know before we sign off tonight?
No, but if anybody's got questions, you can feed them through Scott, and he can get a hold of me. So thank you again for taking, your audience take the time and want to listen to an engineer talk about tech, and that's always really cool.
And he's really great. You guys are just the best. And thank you again for allowing me to be part of the team as your brand ambassador, going around training dealers, salespeople, and their technicians and what have on the use case on how to use it. And that's it's just a delight to work with the team. So a big thanks to you, and thanks to everybody that joined tonight. We had a lot of folks tonight on the line here, which is just really great. So more to come. So stay tuned. And as always, thank you, Jack. Thanks everybody for watching tonight. It's 7 o'clock. It's time to go. Peace, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.